basic assumption of Dr. Kim Hong-kyong is that the meridians carry not only that kind of energy that is somehow regulating physiological processes and the internal organs and all the physical functions in the body, but also they carry, every meridian carries a certain mental or psychological energy that is needed for human existence and for regulating our behavior and our emotions.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Qiological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. Medicine, it's a curious thing. Both noun and verb, it bridges being and doing in ways that can leave you struggling with uncertainty and witness to the wonder of watching healing unfold before your very eyes. There's a kind of improvisation in both being and guiding the tool. Medicine can be a threat, as in, that's bitter medicine, when you've just learned a lesson the hard way, or perhaps worse yet, administering harsh medicine to someone that you love. Medicine is a sacrament, as in the moments when what's been broken or denied finds its way home, and the heart mends with more compassion and understanding. Medicine is a technique. When skillfully applied, it turns back the hands of time on joints or resets the syncopated, rhythmic open and close of the digestion. Medicine is analog. It's part of the tender contraption of being human. It's the opposite of a flowchart. Its call and response shows its traces in scans and in chemistry. For sure, there are moments where a pathogenic balance needs strong compensating intervention, while at other times, a mild correction will set things right. How much and where and when, how you are in the doing of what you do, these are questions you will not find on an accreditation exam. Medicine is a strange enterprise. It dances with status and responsibility. There's a tacit agreement that something is going to be different, that there will be a skillful doing on the part of the doctor and responsive healing on the part of the patient. There's the assumption that life will be better on the other side of the intervention. Medicine is tricky. It's entangled with values and beliefs, with assumptions, hopes, and dreams. It's always got an element of magic, and there's a bit of death and release, letting go of what's been, a portion of identity that must wither away. Often enough, I've asked patients if they would miss their back pain or their digestive disturbance or insomnia. I've asked it as kind of a joke, but the truth is there just might be a part of identity that would be lost without the headaches or anxiety. There are challenges that would be no longer avoidable. There are behaviors that would have to fall away, and relationships that would need to be renegotiated. Medicine, while it's analog, it's anything but linear, which is why a tiny intervention might get a big effect, and at other times, powerful interventions will only pound a problem more firmly into place. Treatment is not without hazards, because freed up qi, you can't know for sure just what it's going to do once it catches its stride and starts to move. How we interact with the body and how the body in turn responds to our treatment. It's not a Newtonian equation, because the body and the mind are two names for different aspects of a phenomena that cannot be disentangled. Emotions, beliefs, sense of identity, and the creation stories of our troubles and accomplishments, these all interweave with the physical aspect of our being. In this conversation with Andreas Brüch, we explore how the Korean Saam perspective relates to how the meridians carry emotions, beliefs, even influence how we interact with others in a social way. We'll be working our way around the Zhu Chinese organ clock in a way that will give you a new perspective on this curious mind-body matrix in which we live. And we'll be discussing the ideas of modern masters like Kim Hong-kyung and innovative doctors like Junhuang Li, who have synthesized Western thinking on psychology with Eastern ways of weaving together the body and the mind into the meridian system. It's difficult to work on the body without affecting the mind. And likewise, working on the mind can powerfully influence the body. In our profession, we talk a lot about the mind-body connection. In this conversation, we'll explore the cartography of mind and body through the lens of Saam acupuncture. Geological Conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinic challenges? Our sponsors have solutions. Blue Poppy offers same-day fulfillment and free shipping on orders over $50. Looking to reimagine clinical practice? Consider the study of nature's design with Ed Neal at the Apricot Grove. Cupping reimagined, and I'm not sure why somebody didn't do this sooner. Fascia Buddy from our friends at AcuFast is going to change your practice. Later in the show, Jane makes clinic life easier with templates. Need to send a custom formula to a patient? Sunten makes it easy for you with their direct delivery service. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Geological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. When it comes to running a smooth, efficient clinic, having a reliable supplier makes all the difference. That's where Blue Poppy comes in. From premium acupuncture needles and trusted herbal formulas to innovative solutions like their liquid moxa, a smokeless, low-fume alternative to traditional moxa, Blue Poppy has everything you need all in one place. And the best part, Blue Poppy offers free shipping on all orders over $50 with no restriction in the continental United States. For nearly 40 years, Blue Poppy has supported licensed acupuncturists with high-quality products and a commitment to exceptional service. Visit bluepoppy.com today and discover why so many practitioners trust Blue Poppy. Don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and more. Are you ready to create your practice through an in-depth study of the original writings of Chinese medicine? Beginning August 24th, join the Apricot Grove and Dr. Edward Neal on a transformative journey into the roots of Chinese medicine. If you are new to the classics, their Wisdom of the Cosmos class offers a wonderful introduction to the original writings of Chinese medicine and Neijing, nature-based medicine. For those seeking a deeper immersion, their highly esteemed 2-year postgraduate training in Neijing, nature-based medicine, and classical text archaeology provides a comprehensive pathway to advanced clinical practice grounded in the Neijing text. Come and join a vibrant global community reimagining clinical practice through the traditional writings of the Huangdi Neijing and study of nature's design. Tuition assistance is available. Visit neijingstudies.com to learn more and enroll today.
Hello, fellow change agents. This is John Stan, creator of the Fascia Buddy Square Cupping System, which I am very happy to say is now available in Canada and launching mid-July at your favorite U.S. distributor. This innovative, multi-sized square cupping set is opening up fresh treatment possibilities everywhere. One great example is in the use of our smallest cups. They fit perfectly just under the occipital ridge when you add a bit of cream to mat down the hair. Now you can precisely target gallbladder 20 and UB10 to create powerful decompression in this very tricky zone. You can stop there or add more cups along the bladder or gallbladder line for even deeper tissue engagement. Have your patient gently move their neck for a few minutes, then pop the cups off and watch their face light up as mobility increases and tension is way down. Often, it's a dramatic change and super quick. And that's just one use. I'm sure you'll have endless others in your clinic. Visit fasciabuddy.com to learn more and get your set now.
Andreas Brüch, welcome back to Geological.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Greetings from the town of Olching in Germany.
It's really fun. having this technology, it's so easy to do things internationally. It's like timelines and time zones and date lines. It just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, good. Right, you're right.
And, the medicine we practice, it came from East Asia. It's wandered itself all over the world. It's here in the Midwest of the United States. It's in Germany. I don't know if East Asian medicine, and acupuncture in particular, I don't know if there's a place on the globe where it isn't to some degree at this point.
Yeah, maybe not. I keep asking my European patients who come into my clinic. They are from different European countries. I keep asking them, do you know if in your country they have Chinese medicine and acupuncture? And everybody says, yes, we have. They don't know how much and how deep they are trained there, but I have patients from Bulgaria, from Romania, from Italy, from Belgium, from Northern Europe.
Wow. So you have patients that travel all this distance to come see you?
No, they are just living in Germany.
Oh, they're living in Germany.
They just live here.
Yeah. And you've been at this for, 20 some odd years now?
You mean acupuncture in general?
Yes, acupuncture in general.
I started in 2002, actually. Yes, so it's over 20 years now.
Over 20 years now. And, we're together today, again, to talk about Saam acupuncture, which you've been doing for a long time. I've been doing for maybe 6 years. It's funny. It seems like it's one of those aspects of acupuncture that you just don't hear a whole lot about. It doesn't have the same fanfare as like TCM or some of the other methods like Master Dong or, Richard Hahn, that kind of thing.
Yeah, correct. Same here in Germany. It's pretty unknown. And so far as I know, I'm the only one, at least the only German teaching it here. And from time to time, there have been a few Korean doctors teaching, but still it's not as prominent as Chinese medicine and also Japanese acupuncture.
Yes, and yet it's phenomenally effective. It's like so effective. I keep asking myself, how come more people don't know about it? Last summer, you joined us for the Geological Saam Chautauqua. We had 15 different people talking about the method. Got to find out all kinds of things about the history and just different ways of practicing. I didn't realize that it actually had as many different parts to it, or maybe I should just say different aspects of tradition. I learned from Toby Daly and the particular monastic tradition that his work came through. And so it was really delightful to have you on talking about what you've learned in Korea.
Yes.
With modern Korean doctors. And then we had some different people talking about history and some of, I'm going to call them modern masters like Kim Hong-kyung, who maybe single-handedly revived Saam acupuncture in Korea back in the last century.
Yeah, at least he added many new aspects to this method and in that way expanded it largely. And also the teachers I learned in Korea, or I'm still learning from them in Korea, who are direct students of Dr. Kim Hong-kyung. So I feel like I'm blessed to be pretty much at the source of at least this style of Saam acupuncture.
Yeah, it's so much fun to learn stuff, to learn new things. Notice how they might even fit to some degree with things you've learned in the past. You have a background in psychology. One of the things that I've found really fascinating that I didn't know about before the Chautauqua, and this comes from Kim Hong-kyung, as I understand it, is this, I think he called it mind path acupuncture, a way of blending some psychology along with very basics of Chinese medicine.
Yeah, correct.
So I wonder if you'd speak to that a little bit for us.
Yeah, we can. The Korean term for his theory is Yushim Ron, which would just, we could pretty literally translate as theory of the mind or mental theory. And basic assumption of Dr. Kim Hong-kyung is that the meridians carry not only that kind of energy that is somehow regulating physiological processes and the internal organs and all the physical functions in the body, but also they carry every meridian carries a certain mental or psychological energy that is needed for human existence and for regulating our behavior and our emotions. And this is quite basic assumption, I think, that you could also accept as a TCM practitioner. But the details he worked out are some are overlapping, of course, with the meridian theory in standard Chinese medicine, and some of it is quite different and astonishing, because he studied Buddhism a lot, and he also studied some kind of Western theory. He studied modern Western biorhythm theory, and also added some aspects of Indian philosophy and theory of Indian medicine, and all, how can I say, combined it or melded it, you say in English, to his model.
Yeah, melded is a good word.
And that mental theory relates to the balancing meridians model of the combination of 6G and 5 element that also Dr. Kim Hong-kyung set up and we are using nowadays in Saam acupuncture.
Yeah. This perspective that Saam has of blending together the 5 phases in the 6G, up until I started practicing Saam, I always looked at the 5 phases in the 6G. There's 2 separate ways of looking at the body, these 2 separate systems, and they kind of commingle in that they're part of Chinese medicine, but they seemed pretty separate. And through practicing Saam acupuncture, I've come to see the incredible way that they're melded together. Melded's a great word. And, we've all heard in our acupuncture training, and I think it's one of the things I know that I enjoyed about learning acupuncture, was that the organs and the emotions, all of these things are connected, right? The liver with anger, on and on and on. I don't need to recite it. We all know it. It's a lovely idea. But when it came down to actually, like, how do I work emotionally or psychologically with somebody using organs and meridians? Well, liver and anger. Okay, fine. But that's not really enough to take you very far.
Right. Correct.
Without improvising on your own. So, this theory of mind, this mind path, it seems to give some very specific ways of working with these energies.
Yes, I think you are correct comparing this to Chinese medicine, because my original training was being a psychologist. I have a PhD in psychology. And my idea when I started at first learning Chinese medicine was I want to combine, if possible, these 2 kinds of systems, or I thought for myself, I can probably as a psychologist use Chinese medicine to treat emotional mental problems of my patients. And in the basic Chinese medicine training here in Germany, at least, it didn't give me really much of an idea. And then there is this book of Giovanni Macioccia, The Psyche in Chinese Medicine, right? I got this, and it's a thick book. It is, I don't know, about 600 or 700 or 800 pages, I don't know. And it's very complex theory and a lot of information. And at the end, actually, I gave up trying to condense what is in such kind of a book for clinical application. And the mind path model.
So it just wasn't helpful for you.
No, it was actually too complicated to use it in clinical practice, in everyday, to apply it in everyday clinic with my patients. And then I thought this mind path model of Dr. Kim Hong-kyung is very systematic and clear, and it relates 100% to the physiological model of the meridians he is setting up. So it's completely overlaying. So it's really not 2 different things. The logic, how you treat your patient on a physiological level, and the logic on the psychological level is, according to Kim Hong-kyung's theory, it's exactly the same point combinations, the same balancing model of meridians. It can be applied to the emotions, and it can be applied to physical conditions. If you understand that, you get many, it makes things a lot more systematic and easier to treat, I think.
This is one of the things that I love about acupuncture in general, that physiology, psychology, not two separate things. Sides of a coin, maybe. That's one way to talk about it. Different aspects of reality, like perhaps climate and weather. They're attached, they're different, but they're attached, they're similar. And it just makes sense to me that whatever method that we have that affects the body, of course it would affect the mind or the psychology, whatever, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And actually, I often have trouble with some of the phrasing that we have, right? We talk about treating the spirit, and that sounds really cool and groovy, but when it comes down to actually doing the work, like, what are we talking about? What do you mean treat the spirit? I cannot get my hands on that. It's too big. But when I think about treating something through meridians, and I know something about what a meridian does and how I can already work with it because I can work with physiology, it's like, oh, now I feel like I can get it because there's some differentiation.
Yeah, I think you're right. And also I think the spirit is a very high-level esoteric idea, but Kim Hong-kyung's model of the emotion is very clearly understandable because he's giving examples of what it means. You can relate really to everyday problems, I think, in everyday life of the people. Because the hard thing, if you want to treat the emotions, especially, I think, if you're not a psychologist, is how to dig down to the emotion of the people, to the problem of the people. So what is your emotional problem? And we can, as acupuncturists, we cannot do a psychological interview session before we start our acupuncture every time we meet our patients, right? We have to spend a short time in the beginning of the session talking about what is the problem or what is today's problem or how do you feel today? And then we have to start. So we need some mental idea that we can apply fast because our session time is limited.
Yes, there's that. And then there's...
Kim Hong-kyung's model gives a system for that.
Great. For those who aren't familiar with it, can you give us a little overview on what this model is?
Yes, of course.
And how to think about using it?
First, we have to start, of course, with the general model of the combination of the 6G and the 5 elements, which Kim Hong-kyung set up as a model of balancing meridians that are basically on 3 dimensions. We have 4 meridians in the dimension of temperature. We have 4 dimensions in the dimension of dampness. So we have meridians. If we tonify these, they will promote dampness, and we have 2 meridians. If we tonify them, they will, in general, promote dryness. So the 2 damp meridians are the spleen, which is pure dampness, and the lung, which is dampness, but not as damp as the spleen, but the temperature is cold and the spleen is warm. And the balancing meridian of pure dampness of the spleen is the large intestine, which is pure dryness. And the mixed dryness with a warm temperature is the stomach meridian. So we have this dimension. We have a second dimension that is about the issue of temperature. So it's warm and cold, or hot and cold. And we have the 2 hot or warm meridians. That is the kidney and the heart. And the heart meridian is pure heat. And the kidney is a mixture of heat and cold, as the same as we know in Chinese medicine that in the kidney especially, we have a yin and a yang aspect. And so the yin aspect is the cold part of the kidney and the yang aspect is the warming part. But in general, the kidney meridian is on the warm side of this balancing model. And pure cold is the bladder meridian, and mixed cold and warm is the small intestine. I mean, we cannot go very much deeper, I think, because of the time, how the combination is happening between 5 element and 6G, but every meridian has a 5 element aspect and a 6G. And if we combine these 2 aspects on a climatic level, we get meridians that have a pure energy, and we get meridians that have a mixed energy. Yeah.
Yes. And this, I think, I just want to insert for a second. This, I think, was one of the key things that helped to unlock some understanding for me within the Saam system, and to really bring together how the 5 phases connect with the 6G, that there's these pure elements where the 5 phase aspect and the 6 chi aspect are the same. So like for heart,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And so it's the hottest thing going. And then you've got the small intestine. It's a mixture, Taiyang cold and being connected to fire.
And fire, heat. Yes.
So it's hot and cold. And it just took a little while to sit with that. But as I did, and as I do, it brings together nuances over time.
Right.
That is, you look at patients and you go, I'm kind of confused by this. But you keep working it long enough and you start to see these things emerge pretty clearly over time.
Yes, right. Of course, it takes some practice, but as you say, with more practice, you can move within this system and categorize the diagnosis or the conditions of the patients within this system, and then in most cases pick the opposite meridian and tonify this or strengthen the energy in this meridian to balance a condition. For example, if somebody is very, very cold, that would be categorized as pure tri-yin energy, and we need a very hot, warm energy to balance this person. So we would tonify the heart meridian, which is the hottest meridian in the body. And that system can be applied of the balancing meridians with every of the 12 meridians, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, the third dimension is the dimension of energy moving inward or outward in the body. And the inward moving energy is the Jue-yin energy, which is the liver and the pericardial meridian. And the liver is pure wind energy because it's wood according to the 5 elements, and Jue-yin is the climatic energy of wood. So those two add together to pure wood energy. And so this liver has a very strongly moving but also cooling energy, and it's astringing, so it's going inward. Kim Hong-kyung says that in general, the wood energy or Jue-yin energy is like a wind hose. So it's astringing and holding things inside the body or taking it inside. Yeah, the pericardium is mixed because it's fire according to the 5 element, and the Jue-yin wind energy according to the 6 chi. So it's a warm, astringing energy. Liver is cold, pericardium is warm. And the balancing meridians is the pure outward warming energy of the Sanjiao, which is fire according to the 5 elements, and is Shaoyang, which is related in Kim Hong-kyung's theory to the ministerial fire. So it's fire, and it's going outward and warming. And the gallbladder is a little bit more complex issue because it's wood, so it's inside and coming and cooling energy, but it's the ministerial fire energy which is going outward and warming. So I always try to explain to the people who are in my seminars that it is like we have this, okay, let me see if I can get the English terms correct, this hinge or pivotal function of the Shaoyang meridian. So it's, and the most pivoting energy in that sense is gallbladder because it's inside and outside. So it's at the turning point of this circulation of inward and outward in general. Well, anyway, we have these balancing meridians with which we can use to regulate physiological functions. And Kim Hong-kyung's theory with the same balancing meridian system is using the emotional energy of each meridian. So on the level of the dampness dimension, balancing dampness and dryness, and the Tai-yin and Yang-ming meridians, he says, okay, I have to start a little bit earlier from the beginning. He says all emotions are following a certain rhythm, like in a biorhythm theory. They will increase and they will drop, and other emotions will act in a yin-yang rhythm accordingly. In the normal way, which is especially clear, I think, on the Tai-yin and Yang-ming meridians, it is the emotional quality that is related to being satiated on a physical level or having enough material resources, money, and material belongings. And the yin meridians, because they are a yin inward moving energy, is related to an emotion, as if you take food, for example, in. So if when you are satiated, you're full, you feel very relaxed and you feel very safe, and you like to give away things because you have enough, that kind of feeling. I have enough, I am satiated, either with food or with material resources. And On the opposite side, we have the Yang Ming meridians that promote a feeling of being hungry or of not having something you need. So of being in a need. So these two emotions are on a feeling as if you are satiated physically or as if you are hungry. These four meridians, the two Tai-yin and the two Yang Ming meridians, are balancing this kind of emotion. So basically it would mean, for example, if you have a person that always has the feeling that he or she is missing something, never has enough, always thinks she must collect things, or he must make more money, or even people who eat too much, they might do this of an excess of Yang Ming emotions. So of feeling hungry, feeling like you don't have enough, like you are missing something, like you are not taken care by other people and so on, so that they will be classified as people having an excess of Yang Ming. And to balance this, you would try to promote the positive emotions of having enough, being rich, being satiated, don't want anything more, I'm done. And that you can promote this by tonifying the Tai-yin meridians, so spleen and lung meridian. So this is the first level.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, my favorite clinic management software that's here to make practice life a little easier. For many of us practitioners, documentation can feel a bit clunky and disrupt the flow of an appointment. That's where Jane's templates can help. With dozens of customization options, you can tailor your templates to your workflow so you can focus your energy on what matters, which is helping your patients. Instead of starting from scratch, Jane includes access to an extensive template library built by practitioners across different disciplines. You can simply edit any template to fit your unique needs, or create your own templates for every step of patient care, including intake forms, questionnaires, clinical surveys, and treatment plans. This way, you have everything you need to start your appointments prepared. Learn more about how Jane can help your documentation work for you. Head to meet.jane.app/documentation to book a demo. Oh, one last thing. If you're ready to get started with Jane, use the code QIOLOGICAL for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. This is, I'm just thinking here, I don't know about in Germany, but here in the States now, there's the economies, all this and that, and politics and blah, blah, blah. A lot of things about billionaires, how terrible billionaires are. And they got so damn much money, how come they need some more? What's wrong with them? Well, okay, look, when we're being practitioners, I think we rarely ask ourselves, what's wrong with this patient? We're more looking to go, what's going on with this patient? Because we're not trying to judge them, we're trying to understand them. And as I hear you talking about being satiated or being hungry, it just clicks for me all of a sudden that it's possible that someone could have $1 billion, but because of the imbalance that they have, they're actually in a kind of Yang Ming excess. They don't have enough. There's a feeling of not enough, even though ostensibly there's a giant bank account.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like you have enough, then you don't have enough.
Correct. From a Western psychological point, you might have started to speculate what's wrong with this person. How did this person develop this never fulfilled need, this kind of emptiness, this hole in your stomach that can never be filled? So what has been missing in early childhood, right? For example.
Sure.
But in general, in the meridian classification, we wouldn't need that. We would just have to diagnose, okay, this is such kind of a person. And then we can try to emotionally balance this person by tonifying the opposite balancing meridian. That is one way to see things. And you can actually do it without having to know much about early childhood, parent-child relationship, or trauma or whatever, just by understanding the patient's current emotional state and then balance it. And as you said before, since all these ideas are intermingled or connected with the physiological functions in many cases, we might find physical conditions that somehow fall into this model and can also be explained by an emotional problem. So let's, for example, think about stomach conditions. Yeah, in many cases, I personally think those are people who, if you have a chronic stomach condition, who might are not getting or did not get in their early childhood relationship, usually from their parents, enough care, and didn't get the feeling of being cared well or being emotionally, not physically, but also emotionally fed well with love, with emotions, with something that fulfills their needs. So a physical problem might develop out of a emotional state. In my clinical understanding or experience, those people who have chronic stomach problems are usually not the very obese or fat people. So those who have a physical constitution of dampness, according to Chinese medicine or according to Saam acupuncture, but those are the slim people, right? Because if you have a well-working digestive system, you can eat a lot, because you can digest it well.
Yes, you can extract nourishment.
And your digestive system will accept that, will do this. But if you have a poor digestive system and eat a lot and eat, a lot of junk food, or fat, oily, greasy, whatever kind of not very healthy food, your digestive system will not accept this and will develop problems. So there might be some parallel issues between feeling satiated and having physical problems. I don't want to speak a lot about my personal life so much, but I just this year, after getting several sessions of psychological counseling, I was able to finally identify one psychological problem or one psychological need that was always not really fulfilled in my childhood. And after understanding this and understanding how I will deal with this emotional emptiness, with this need,
this hunger,
my stomach problems from the last 15 years, they were just gone within 1 week. And for me personally, this is just a confirmation about this idea of Kim Hong-kyung. Of course, it's also basic psychology, because if you resolve your personal emotional burden, psychosomatic conditions will hopefully, or will in many cases, just be resolved or will improve, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I've heard that and talked to friends who are psychotherapists. We'll sometimes talk about cases in our work and stuff, because while we're using very different methods, in some ways, we're looking at the same thing. We're just going about it in very different ways. They're looking to dig into someone's experience in psychology and the way that they've made meaning in their life and how that affects them. And I'm looking at meridians and channels, and are they hot, are they cold, all this kind of thing. And it's so curious to me how I don't have to be a psychotherapist.
No, you don't have. Not when using Saam acupuncture.
At all, which is great, because I'm not interested in doing that work, really.
Yeah.
And yet, you get the right meridians, people have dramatic changes.
Yes, correct.
And how they relate to themselves and other people.
Yes, correct. Basically speaking, I don't know about the United States, but in Germany, or even more specifically in my clinic, my impression for many years was there are many patients who have, of course, a mental or psychological, emotional aspect of their physical conditions, but they don't want to really discuss them so much in detail, but they want to have some kind of resolve for their problem that is not really directly addressing these issues. And those people are looking for another way to resolve it. Yeah, because if I'm ready or open to discuss all the emotional burdening, my trauma, my relationship issues or whatever, openly, I wouldn't go to the acupuncturist. I will go to the psychologist and book a counseling session, right? So it's a kind of a little bit tricky thing to address the emotions of the patients without doing the complete or full counseling session. So if we are using this balancing model of Kim Hong-kyung, I try to offer my patients a very simple conversation about their emotions in these 3 dimensions or categories that I was only explaining the dampness and the dryness, so the physical needs. The temperature level is very easily to explain. The hot emotions are the positive, warming emotions that really, like we could say, literally say, the heartwarming emotions. So it's love, it's sexual fulfillment, it's erotic fulfillment, it's also anything that's, Kim Hong-kyung describes it as artistic satisfaction. So beautiful, aesthetic, fulfilling activities or emotions that relate to such thing like a hobby, like a sports, like enjoying culture and arts and everything. So all these positive emotions where we would say it's warming. And the opposite part is the state where all these positive emotions are just absent, so that it's cold. So warm emotions are not there. So what means if love and affection and erotic emotions and enjoyment of fulfilling activities is absent? The opposite is just fear and anxiety. So the cold meridians, the Taiyang meridians, so bladder and small intestine are representing fear and anxiety and related emotions. So if we have a patient that in most cases that have a what is my pronunciation in English? Anxiety disorder? Anxiety?
I'm sorry, which kind of disorder?
Fear? A-N-X-E...
Oh, anxiety. Anxiety, yes.
I-E-T... Anxiety, I'm sorry, yeah. My pronunciation. An anxiety disorder or a panic disorder or something like that, or even maybe a depression. They are lacking positive emotions. So to balance these states, we in many cases can use tonifying the heart meridian or the kidney meridian to promote the positive emotions and in that way balance the existence of these negative anxiety or fear or depression related emotions. So very quick, if you have a short talk with the patient and they talk a little bit about their emotions, we could classify them maybe in this excess of Taiyang, and we can balance their state by promoting the Shaoyin meridians of either heart or kidney, which is not so far away, actually, I think, from conventional Chinese medicine, because we say the heart meridian is related to joy, and love and everything, and the kidney is related to some kind of sexual drive or something like that, right? So it's related, but to put it in that clear categorical model, I think this is the strength of the idea. Okay, my patient is in this box, so I need the other opposing 2 meridians to improve the patient's condition, right? That would be the second level. And the third dimension of Juyin and Shaoyang. So the negative emotions, the yang emotions are always the negative emotions. The negative in that sense is Shaoyang. It's either related to feeling helpless, having low self-confidence, low self-esteem, having the feeling you don't know enough, you don't have enough power, you don't have enough influence, so you're kind of helpless on a level that it relates either to knowing things, so to knowledge or skill, which would be an excess of the Sanjiao meridian, or you don't have enough general power or influence or possibility to push through with things and have not enough emotion or not enough aggression to solve your problems and everything. That would be more an excess of the gallbladder meridian. And on the opposing side, the pericardium in the model of Kim Hong-kyung is you have a good self-esteem, you feel well because you have knowledge or skill to do things. And the liver meridian is, well, having influence and power, but not as much related to knowing things or having a skill, but pure power. So we can for example, find ideal role models. Yeah, a person who has a lot of pericardium energy and has a high self-esteem on that side might be a well-knowledgeable researcher or a professor or a teacher. So somebody who knows things, or maybe even a technician. And somebody who has a lot of good self-esteem related to the liver. So pure Julian energy of the liver is a manager or a president. So they have an influence and power because of their position or because of the in general power and influence they had. But it must not be related to skills or knowledge. It's more your position or your formal power. Yeah? In Western psychology, we even have a very good distinction for these kind of two aspects. Now I have to try to translate to English again. We in organizational psychology, especially, it is distinguished between positional power and competence. Yeah? So one is you are accepted and you can have influence and you have a status and power and maybe a position because you know things very well. And on the other hand, you have a position and you have influence. You can exert power because you are just in the position to do it. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm maybe just strong enough to punch you in the face, but my martial arts fighting technique is poor. So this is the liver Julian energy. But if I have a very nice technique to punch you, that might be more a pericardium kind of influence and power I can exert. Maybe a little bit funny example, but I think it makes it a little bit more understandable, right?
That idea of positional power versus power from a position of knowledge and competence.
Yes.
We see all the time that there are people who are in positions of power, not necessarily competent.
Yes, of course.
Often abuse their power in a corrupt way.
Correctly, yeah.
Because they're just in a position of power. So why not use it? They may not be the smartest, or sharpest tool in the shed, but they're in that position of power.
Yeah.
And they know how to wield that. So there's...
Correct.
You see this in politicians all the time.
So we could categorize this in the model. So if somebody is abusing their positional power, not taking the responsibility for other people, and so on, we could say in Kim Hong-kyung's model, they have an excess of Julian liver energy.
Yes. So you would need to, tonify their triple burner.
For example, to
give them a little humility.
Correct. That's the way you could think in this model. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, if I have a low self-esteem because I always think my academic achievement is not good enough, my technical skills in my job are poor, and so on. So I have an excess of Sanjiao energy. And to balance this, I want to give you a more positive self-esteem on the skill or knowledge-related part. That would be to balance this by tonifying the pericardium, right?
This makes me think about something I hear about a fair amount in our profession. I don't know if you have the term in German, but here in English, people talk about having what they call imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah, we use it in Germany also.
You use it in Germany too. So that we could see that as a overabundance of Sanjiao energy.
Right, correct. You could say like that.
They may actually have plenty of knowledge. They could have just spent 5 years studying Chinese medicine, but they don't feel it.
Yeah, but still they still feel they are not good enough. They still don't know. People will look down on them because they are not good enough. That would be a perfect example of an excess of Shaoyang energy, especially if it's knowledge related. You could say this is category, or we can categorize it as an excess of Shaoyang Sanjiao energy, and the balancing meridian to improve their emotional well-being would be tonifying the pericardium.
So they could really be in touch with what they know it from the inside.
It also...
Maybe, I'm just thinking, if you tonify their liver and give them a feeling of, I've got positional power, then you might get this weird combination of, I don't think I know stuff, but I've got power and I'm just going to go use it.
Yeah. That could be right. You're right. But probably not with a high probability it will go wrong, because if we are considering the meridian model, we can say, as it is also in the physiological theory, for your example, liver is Jueyin, and pericardium is also Jueyin. So they are both Jueyin channels, or we could say pericardium meridian and liver meridian together the whole Jueyin channel. So their energetic quality is a kind of overlapping. So it's not this, the separation is not so strict to say this is only that, this is only power related, and this is only skill or knowledge related, because they are having the same energy of Jueyin, and the 5-element aspect is different. So liver is Jueyin energy and wood, right? And the pericardium meridian is Jueyin and fire. And the fire, so the pericardium meridian is the mixed meridian because it's fire and wind energy, so moving and warming. And the liver is cooling because it's pure wind. So Jueyin is wind and wood is wind. But still, they are related, as you see. So I think the separation between also the mental emotional aspect is not pure 100%. So my personal opinion about this model is, if we can find the right dimension and find the right side of the yin and yang scheme to balance it, we are pretty close to improving the person's condition.
Yes.
Because also in reality, my feeling of skill and my feeling of power will be somehow, in most cases, related.
Hopefully they're not disconnected. Yes,
yeah,
I would say they are related. And again, one of the things, I appreciate about Saam, first of all, because of the way it makes these differentiations, whether we're talking mind, or body. But in this case, because we are talking psychology, it's helpful to know if someone has, say, imposter syndrome. Okay, this is within that third circuit.
Yes, correct.
I'm probably not going to want to try to help them feel satisfied,
right,
with their uncomfortable condition.
Right. Yeah, you right.
Here, because it's just not the right fit. We don't want them to be satisfied.
It's correct.
We want them to be in touch with the knowledge they actually have.
Yes, correct.
And so identifying where the problem is and then working that counterbalance makes our life easier, for sure.
Yes. And the next step, or the next problem for us as an acupuncturist would be, how can I get the right idea? And I think as a psychologist, it's very easy. I mean, on that level, you can ask your patients if somehow there is the fact or the problem that my patient has a low self-esteem, feels he cannot really change things in his life. He is not good enough. I can ask, do you feel, is it a problem related to your job? Yes, it is. So I can ask, do you think the problem is because you always have the feeling you don't know enough, or your, vocational skill is not good enough? Or do you simply feel powerless because your boss is always kind of mobbing you, and it doesn't have to do anything to do with your technical skills, but it's just because you are powerless and he is the boss? Or do you feel powerless because you don't get promoted? Or do you think it's because your job skills are not good enough? That's how I do it. I try to offer my patients this choice, and in most cases, just people can say it's this or that, and then based on that information, I can pick a meridian and treat the emotions.
It's so fascinating once we start to have these distinctions that we can make with looking at the different meridians and how they're connected, the way that it drives our clinical inquiry, right? What a great question. Are you in the position you're in because you actually need more skill? Or is there an overbearingness that's going on that's preventing you from unfolding the skill that you have?
Yeah. Or maybe even more general. Are you feeling sad, or are you not feeling well because you think you're not having enough money, or you're having material struggles? Do you have a relationship problem? Is your sex bad? So if you're on the second dimension, or do you have a problem with studying, with having enough knowledge, with having enough technical skill, or having in general enough influence or power in your life? So you can make a very simple dimensions, and in that way, try to find what is the basic problem of your patient. So that would be one possibility, actually. That's how I do it in my clinic.
It feels doable. To me, it feels doable.
Yes, that's the basic point what I'm talking about. It's not a very complicated, you don't have to study hundreds of pages in different Chinese medicine books about the psyche and how the emotions work. It's a concise kind of logical model. With some practice, we can move inside this model and use it.
Yeah. And for me, because I'm interested in people, but I really don't want to get all way down, bogged into a discussion of their emotions. I'm not trained for that.
Yeah.
And I find that is often a really slippery slope into wasting a lot of time and not getting any kind of information I can actually use to help them.
Yeah.
So having these sets of distinctions is super helpful.
You're right. I mean, at least in Germany, the acupuncturists in my profession, the Heilpraktiker, which are not medical doctors, but is the alternative medicine license. Usually they are not trained in psychological interviewing or in psychological counseling. So I think for those people, such a easy model, if you know your limitations, can be applied to use it.
Mm-hmm.
In my personal view, there's some restriction. You should have some basic skills in interviewing and in psychological counseling. So you should, for example, be able to ask what in psychological interviewing skill is called open questions and not closed questions.
That sounds like basic interviewing skills.
Is it understandable?
It's basic. I mean,
yeah, basic interviewing skills. Yeah, because if I tell to my patient, isn't it so that you have an emotional problem because your skills are poor? It's different than if I ask it openly. So if I say, what is the basic problem in your job? Try to verbalize it to me. So they can bring more openly their, psychological content or their psychological state than if I just offer one possibility and it's yes or no. So that's the very basic principles in psychological counseling. I think you should be familiar with. Otherwise, it might happen you are just putting your model or just cupping it over the patient and don't give them the freedom to choose something else, right? So should not happen.
It can be a little bit dangerous. I know as a practitioner over the years, I've got my ideas about Chinese medicine, how it works, maybe how my patients should behave for their own benefit. And I have put my ideas on my patients in terms of some things that maybe they should do or things that they shouldn't do. And I would say that all the healthy patients will simply ignore me and not do that because they didn't ask for it and it doesn't fit them.
But other people might not be able to do this, right? For example, you have a patient with a very low, poor self-confidence and self-esteem. He might not even have the guts to say, no, this is not correct. It's another way. They might just say, oh, yes, yeah, you're right, doctor. No, it might happen. So we have to be able to establish what in German in psychology is called a rapport. So a good relationship with your patient and being able to have a little bit skilled interviewing procedure. Then I think it's possible for most of us.
I think it's not only possible. I think with the distinctions that we use within the Saam system, we have a very clear set of principled guidelines.
Yes.
That really carry water in terms of clinical effectiveness. And I feel like if I stay within that to some degree, I ask much better questions.
Of course, yeah. You don't get lost in the world of psychological problems. You have your guidelines and your scheme, which is
I've got a meridian to land on.
Oh, right. Yeah, correct. Absolutely correct. Yeah.
I try to always have a meridian to land on. Speaking of that, I've got one more question on this mind path, and there's some other things I wanted to ask you. A few minutes ago, I heard you say something when you were talking about the Xiaoyang energies, gallbladder in particular, of not enough aggressive energy. And I want to talk about that for a moment or two, because again, I don't know what it's like in Germany. Here in the United States at this time, any kind of aggression at all is seen as a bad thing. Like aggression is just not considered good ever. It's a bad thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I know in my clinical practice, there are times I've had people, kind of like the patient you were just talking about, low self-esteem. They don't speak up for themselves. They get run over a lot by other people, manipulated by other people. Sometimes what they need is some thunder.
Yeah.
Sometimes what they need is an appropriate amount of aggression. And so I'd like to hear from you, what is the right amount of aggression? How can aggression be useful for people? Because most people, I think, these days hear aggression, and it's like, let's get rid of that. That's no good. There's never a place for it.
Yeah. Well, that's a really complex question, even between two nations or cultures, because I think it's even different between Germany and the United States. Well, I mean, as a psychologist, I didn't practice psychology now really for 15 years, but in general, if your aggression has a negative outcome, it's a kind of pathological in any way. If it's destroying your social relationships, if it's making you sick physically, if it ends up in physical violence, of course, then in most cases it will be negative. But in general, aggression is a positive thing, right? To achieve things in life and to achieve change and to reach your goals, you need aggression, basically. Aggression is the Latin term aggredi, which means to walk in direction of something or to move yourself in direction of something.
I did not know that was the root. I like that.
In general, aggression is, we can consider something positive because you need this kind of energy to move yourself into wherever you want to go. If you don't have this, you will just stay on your place and do nothing. Psychologically speaking, we need a basic level of aggression to start doing things and to push through, right? And the rest, I think, is dependent on the context. Huh? It's very interesting because Kim Hong-kyung in his books is writing about that the gallbladder energy has something to do with with the feeling of having revolutionary energy. That means to rebel against those things that suppress you. And I think this is this pivotal hinge idea of the gallbladder energy that we know in Chinese medicine on a mental emotional level. If you're so much suppressed that finally you now start doing things, finally you will not accept this suppression, but you will stand up and raise your fist and say, no, now it's enough. I'm not willing to accept this anymore. This is what is gallbladder energy. Start doing things, getting out of your rabbit hole and start working on what is important for you. And I had several times such experience with my patients when I identified in interviewing my patient that they want to change something in their life, either their job or their relationship. And I tonified gallbladder with some acupuncture using this 4-point combination, gallbladder Chongyok. They come after 2 or 3 sessions and said, I decided to change my job. I finally addressed the problems I have in my relationship with my partner, or I was able to tell my boss, no, I'm not going to do this project, something like that. A very interesting experience, actually.
Sun-Ten has been a trusted name in traditional Chinese medicine since 1946. With deep roots in classical herbal wisdom, Sun-Ten combines time-honored practices with modern science to support health and wellness. Their extensive line of herbal extracts and supplements is manufactured to the highest quality standards, helping practitioners deliver consistent, reliable results. Through the Sun-Ten dispensary platform, licensed healthcare professionals can easily create and customize herbal formulas online. These prescriptions are hand-prepared and shipped directly to patients, making personalized TCM care more accessible than ever. Their commitment extends beyond products. They actively support integrative care by enabling clinicians to offer customized herbal solutions that seamlessly fit into modern treatment plans. With nearly 80 years of experience, Sun-Ten remains a pioneer in bridging traditional knowledge with today's healthcare needs. To learn more, visit sun10.com or sun10dispensary.com. I've seen very similar sorts of changes happen in my patients to the point, depending on the situation, I will sometimes warn people about what might happen after the treatment. And I will even in certain cases ask their permission. It's like, I can help you with this.
Right. Oh.
Are you going to be okay if somebody calls you a bitch? Are you going to be okay if somebody starts being angry at you because you're actually not being a doormat anymore and you're standing up for yourself?
Yeah, right.
Is this okay with you?
Yeah.
And usually people say, yes, I need it and I want it. But, on occasion, and why do I do this? I do it because I've had people come back without that warning and telling me like what a terrible fight they had with their spouse because now they're standing up for themselves. So I'd like to give them a little bit of warning.
Yeah.
These days.
Yeah, I'm doing it exactly the same, Michael. And also, again, speaking from a psychological perspective in managing maybe a change process or a process of change in your patient, you must be transparent. We cannot kind of manipulate on that level our patients, I think, without asking their permission or without informing them. This and that could happen if we do this, right? And asking, is this okay for you? Is this what you want? Because if we wouldn't do this, I think it's almost like a psychological manipulation. You do something with your patient because I think this is correct for this person. And maybe they come back and say, well, what did you do to me, doctor? What acupuncturist, what have you done to me? As you said, I had a big fight with my boss and now they fired me, something like that, whatever. So we have to be transparent and tell the patient, okay, this and this might happen. This is what I can try to offer you. Is this okay?
Yeah.
Right?
I realize too, as we're having this conversation, this is why I love conversation so much. There's stuff that comes up. I didn't even realize that I've been thinking it, right? It's in the back of my mind. But I think part of the reason I ask their permission, I'm testing and I'm kind of inviting at the same time to see if that part of them really wants to be engaged. Generally speaking, I see, and this is women in particular, when I suggest that they can get what they want and someone's going to call them a bitch, their eyes get bright and they smile. It's like, oh yeah, I could use some of that.
Wonderful.
Right? But if they look timid and frightened when I say that, then that's probably not the right time.
Yeah, maybe, yes, you're right. And sometimes I think we can, in conversation with our patients, we can for ourselves quite clearly decide what this patient would need, but still we cannot force it on them. No? For example, I had a patient, actually she was the only Chinese patient I had so far. She was a university student and she had a serious acne skin condition. And she came to me and we were having the interview and I asked her, what do you study? She said, I studied this and that major. I don't remember. And her next sentence was, but it's a very easy major. Everybody can do it. And I'm not very good at my studies. So it's clear that her self-esteem, for whatever reason, was very low and she would need more the feeling of I have skill or I have power. I can exert influence and I'm self-confident, something like that. But still, I think if you think on that emotional level, you cannot force this on your patient. You have to ask them for permission if they want to have more self-confidence and if you should try to improve it or give more of that using acupuncture. Otherwise, you are not a transparent therapist, I think. At least in Western culture. I don't know about the Asia, how they do it there. But I'm not in the position to decide this for my patient.
Yeah, I don't know about, and maybe that is an aspect of us being Westerners. Fair enough.
Yeah, maybe, yes.
The other thing that I look at it from the point of view of is I want to be effective as a practitioner. And so I want to be able to craft some kind of a treatment that my patient is capable of receiving and using.
Yeah, right.
And if it is within alignment with what they want and what they desire and what they're willing to attempt, then I think you can get good results. But again, like you were just saying, if we stand outside, I'm the practitioner, I know I'm going to give you this because I think you need it, I think that's not as helpful to people.
Yeah, you're right. And if you compare this to physical conditions, it's the same. Your patient comes and has a knee pain and says, please improve my knee. You wouldn't decide as a practitioner, okay, this patient has a bad shoulder, so I will treat the shoulder even if they come and say my knee is bad. So if somebody comes and has an emotional condition, emotional problem, you could not just say, okay, I'm going to treat it if they don't ask for it, right? It's even from a legal standpoint, at least in Germany, I would say you cannot do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're a surgeon and the patient comes and has a bad thumb and you start doing surgery on their toes. You can't
Not a good idea. Yeah.
Similar problem, maybe. Yeah. A similar idea.
Yeah. We have to, in some ways, be in alignment with what they're asking for. And part of our job is to be able to listen in a way for things that they might be asking for very, very, very quietly.
Yeah.
Because maybe they don't dare speak out, or they don't think they can speak out, or maybe they don't even know to ask sometimes. But in part, I think that's our job, to be able to listen for what they're really, really asking for. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is this mind path meridian energy of Kim Hong-gyo. I hope the listeners will not get too confused by what we have discussed here. And I don't know, the next level of this theory is Dr. Lee Chong-hwan's mind acupuncture. I don't know if you wanted to talk about this also today, Michael.
Oh man, you know what? I know you've worked with him. We had him on the Chautauqua. I would love to talk with you about that, but I'm also realizing that we're coming close to having to wind this down.
Okay.
And that is going to be a longer conversation. So I say...
Oh, no, I can explain it in 3 to 4 minutes if we have that time. Yeah, it's...
you can explain in 3 to 4 minutes?
I think so.
All right, let's have it.
Okay, considering this mind path model we have right now, I have to give so much credit to Dr. Lee because he took this model and combined it with some aspect of Western psychotherapy or Western psychological counseling. And that is, I took the English translation, just a moment. That is what we call in Germany resource-focused counseling or resource-focused psychotherapy. That means, other than in physical problems where I decide the correct treatment for the knee of my patient, in resource-oriented counseling, you will ask your patient, what do you need to improve your psychological situation or your mental, emotional situation? And the patient will say, okay, I would need this and that. And this idea, Dr. Lee transferred to acupuncture. That means we can take the bad emotions of our patients and ask them, what would you need? What kind of good emotion would you need to balance this or to get rid of this emotional burdening? So in Dr. Lee's mind acupuncture, we do something Dr. Lee calls chi transformation on the mind level. First, the patient has to describe as exactly as possible the bad emotion, and then the patient has to find a model or a symbolic representation, and that relates to the meridian energy. So, what temperature has your emotion? What does it have a color? What is the texture of your emotion? Does it have a place in your body? Does it have a direction or movement? Is it inside and going outside? It come from the outside, something like that. And he also, or in that model, we also ask patients, maybe you have a symbol for it, like an animal or a plant or a piece of art or whatever is symbolizing this negative emotion. And in the next step, we can ask the patient, imagine this bad emotion is gone, and at the same situation, you feel as well or as good, as positive as you only can think of. How would this emotion be? Please describe it. And the patient describes by themselves what kind of emotion do they need to improve. It's their imagination. And then this, at first described as an emotion, has also been transformed, has to undergo chi transformation. So I asked the patient, this positive emotion, what color, what texture, Where in the body is it soft? Is it hard? Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it moving from the outside to the inside? Is it hard? Or is it stingy? And we can also offer, is it like fire or is it like a metal? Something like that. So this symbolic representation of the positive emotion then must be analyzed from the perspective of the 12 meridians according to Saam acupuncture. So actually the patient tells you what they need, and it's the competence of the therapist to pick the right meridian that is at best representing this positive emotion. And then we pick the meridian accordingly and treat the patient. And the very good idea is it's the patient's diagnosis actually at the end, what kind of meridian energy they need, even if it's not inside this balancing meridian model of the 6G and the 12 meridians, but it's their own choice. And Dr. Lee is combining this with deep relaxing breathing and with his basic acupuncture points he calls basic circulation acupuncture points. So first getting the whole acupuncture system, the whole meridian system into flow, and then at the next step inserting the Saam acupuncture strategy. Actually, the patient has picked by their representative picture or symbolism of the positive emotion they need. It's fantastic. It's bringing together Western psychological idea like we have in art therapy. People draw their emotions. People, build their emotions by using, plastics, things to build something, or you dance your emotions, you sing your emotion, whatever. But it's this symbolic representation that is taken and used for acupuncture. And I think this is just such a wonderful, great idea to bring East and West together. And
wow.
Very good effect. And I have really very good experiences by applying this.
I love what you just said about the patient tells you what it is that they need. And the reason why this really touches me is because for years, this was years ago, I can remember sitting with patients. There was a particular phase of my development as a practitioner where I just felt like I am not very good at this, because I'd be sitting and talking with patients and talking and tongue and pulse and everything else, on and on and on. And I just felt like I couldn't get a good diagnosis, right? I just couldn't get a clear diagnosis. Like, I'm not very good at this, because I should be able just to pick something out of one of the books I've read or experiences I've had and know what it is, but I didn't. And Andreas, what I would do at that point is I would just listen as best I could and try to see if I could hear the patient tell me what it was that they needed. And I mean, it just caused me to pause and listen more than anything.
Yeah.
But I remember having this idea in my mind, I'm just waiting until they tell me what they need. Now, you just describe in 3 or 4 minutes the process of Dr. Lee's mind acupuncture. And I'm thinking to myself, there it is.
Yeah, it's wonderful, really.
There's the method to have them tell you.
Yeah. Personally speaking, I think this method has some limitations, because of this very deeply disturbed psychological state. I don't have the experience treating that. But in general, it's like resource-oriented psychotherapy. As a psychotherapist, you would not force your opinion, what is good for your patient, on your patient, but you would ask him, what do you need? Yeah? Do you need more aggression, or do you need more harmony in your relationships? And how can you achieve it? And the patient has to think, okay, what skills do I already have? Which of these skills will help me to improve my problem? And it's not the psychotherapist in many cases, but it's the patients that verbalize what they need. And then as a psychotherapist, you work on that with your patient. It's not that I tell you what you need. If you're depressive, yeah, you have to do this and that. But how can you get out of your
Yes, what is it you need?
depression? What would help you individually? And I think this idea is then represented now in an acupuncture treatment. It's just wonderful.
Yeah. The other thing that I really find fascinating about this is that he first asked people to describe and create a picture. What's the problem? What's the troublesome emotion? Instead of trying to get away from it, or, ignore it or minimize it or whatever, like just go into it and not necessarily
Right.
in a heavy psychological way, but in a way of it feels like this. It's hot, it's cold, it's fuzzy. It feels like a slippery rock. It feels like a nail in my shoe. I mean, whatever it is.
Yeah, right.
You get into that. That almost begs to be flipped into what would be its solution. I mean, there's your yin-yang Qi transformation. Describe the problem well enough, the solution almost cannot help but arise.
Yeah, kind of, yes. Oh, you're right. It's wonderful.
That's
So we could work on many things with that.
Yes, and like you say, there could be very, very serious psychological issues, probably not for us to work with.
Yeah, maybe we need training by Dr. Lee personally.
Yes, you might need more experience.
Then we could get a more clear idea of what conditions can all be treated with his model.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to having him train us in the West here with this.
Now, he's going to be in Sweden. No, not Sweden, Switzerland.
He's going to be in Switzerland, yeah.
Switzerland in November.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And this is a live class or online?
It's a live class.
It's a live class.
In this school in Switzerland, yes.
So people want a little trip to Switzerland, they could join you guys.
Yeah, at least from Europe or continental Europe, maybe, yeah.
We have airplanes from the United States.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, I got just a few more questions if you have a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Okay, because I know you've been doing this for a while. You've been teaching it for a while as well. Some of us have been studying Saam for a few years. There's a lot of people that are kind of new to it and just beginning to hear about it and learn it, and they're getting started. So thinking of those kind of folks in mind, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you think people have about Saam when they're first starting out?
I think the biggest misconception, as we also, I think, discussed in one of the last podcasts, is that people don't understand that you can treat on several levels. The one level is moving strictly in this model of the balancing climatic energies and categorizing your patient's conditions according to this model. But at the same time, we can use the same 4 Saam acupuncture points to cover or to address classical Chinese medicine Zhang Fu diagnosis, also using the same points. And this is the big advantage. So we can use all the skills we already have in Chinese medicine and apply just the same point combinations, or switch to the Saam balancing models, Meridian model, and use it for this purpose, or use it for the mental emotional thing. I think this is one misconception. And I talked yesterday to one colleague who is on the board of the acupuncture school in Berlin here. And she said, if I talk with people about Saam acupuncture, they always say, it's just this table of these point combinations and there is nothing more special about it. But there's so much more theory behind it. First, those fixed point combinations, and then in the next step, you can learn to modify these point combinations. And if you understood the model, use it more freely and individualize those point combinations to the individual constitution or condition of the patient. So there's so much more inside the whole learning possibility. And on an even higher level, we could also study those Sambo acupuncture points. We talked already about them. And so the model gets very wide, and it is a large world of possibilities, I think.
Yeah.
That include, and this is the special or the also a large difference to Chinese medicine, include clearly understandable idea about constitutional treatment. So it's not only treating a disease condition, but treating a disease condition by balancing constitutional factors of our patients. And how can we do this? This is also something that distinguishes Saam acupuncture from standard Chinese medicine.
Yes, it's so funny. It relies on the 4 needles basically.
Yeah.
At least as a starting point. And I've had people say similar things to me. Well, that's just the 4 needle technique.
Yeah, it's not.
It's like, okay, it's like there's 4 needles and they do a certain thing. But if you don't know the diagnostics and the framework behind it, then you completely miss everything that it has to offer.
Yeah, most probably. Yeah. If you don't understand the theory behind it, and you don't know how to work in that framework, the effect will not be as good.
Now, when people are first learning, and we're talking about the framework now, what are some of the things that you think are the easiest to grasp and start using in your practice?
Yeah, the easiest to grasp is I have a Chang Fu diagnosis, and I can translate it to pick the correct Saam point combination, and will have a good result. For example, you have a patient who has allergic rhinitis or asthma, and in many cases in Chinese medicine, you would say it's either a kidney deficiency or a lung deficiency, or maybe even both. Yeah? But I can translate something like kidney qi deficiency, kidney yin deficiency, kidney yang deficiency to it's actually a deficiency of the kidney in any sense, and immediately apply those 4 needles to strengthen or tonify kidney energy and hit all those diagnoses immediately. So I can use my framework of Chinese medicine and just use, by applying Saam acupuncture, use the Saam acupuncture point combinations and cover or address those same diagnoses we already know well from Chinese medicine.
Yeah. It seems like a really great bridge. Take something that you know and have some skill and familiarity with, and take it this next step. Now use this treatment.
Yeah.
Notice what happens. I find whenever I'm trying to learn something new, it's easier for me to learn it if I can somehow attach it to things that I already know. It's much harder to learn things if I'm being asked to think about it in a way that I've never learned to think in the first place. It's a much bigger stretch. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yes, right. It comes down to that, actually. Yeah. And I think this is the step in starting to use Saam acupuncture. Take your Chang Fu diagnosis, start using the 4-point needle combinations, and see what happens. Is the result good? Is the result same as using points from, according to the point indications from whatever, Chinese medicine, Japanese style acupuncture, or whatever? Or is it maybe even better? Personally, I think it's faster, it's easier, it's more systematic. And this is the big advantage. You don't memorize so many point indications. Just know the principle of how to pick those or select those 4 points, and then just go for it. It's fast and efficient. And it's fun. Yeah.
And it's fun. It is. It's fast, efficient. It's fun. I love that it comes from a set of reliable principles, that every time I make a diagnosis, every time I do a treatment, I learn a little bit more about how these principles work.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Now, on the other side of that, what would you say are some things that take longer to develop in being able to apply Saam acupuncture?
It takes, to really dig deep into the model and the understanding, it takes time, because you need, like in every other method, you need experience. So after many cases, it's easier to pick the correct or the best meridian, I would say. And actually, since I've been recently reading and translating several of Kim Hong-kyung's books for myself, I must say the details so far, the very subtle details, we need some teachers here in the West who can explain these and teach these in a way that we as Westerners can accept or understand them well. And that is also missing teaching material. This is my personal feeling. And to translate the cultural content that is within the system, at least as I now understand it, as Kim Hong-kyung laid it out. For example, in one of it, he analyzed Korean sayings according to their content related to the meridian energy. So something like, you have a strong liver, right? That is a Korean saying, and it means something or something else. Yeah, you have a weak gallbladder. Nobody in the West will understand if I tell you weak gallbladder. So he's transferring a lot of deeper meaning and understanding of how he interprets the meridians within the Korean cultural and language framework, which we cannot use here. So we must develop our own interpretation of this in order to be able to teach it.
Yes, that makes sense. Our own Western ways of thinking and seeing and understanding that represent these 5-phase, 6-chi.
Yeah, this is something that exists for Chinese medicine because it has been around for, over 100 years now in the West, but it doesn't exist that much for Korean medicine, obviously.
Plenty of good work to do. I look forward to, is this work that you're working on that will get published? These translations, or is this for yourself?
I'm working, I have published this textbook in German, about Saam acupuncture, and I'm slowly, step by step, very slowly progressing on an English textbook I plan to publish, but we will see how many years it will take. Still hard to say.
Okay. We need the material, so let's add a little gallbladder here.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Andreas.
Wonderful.
Always a delight to talk with you.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's been my pleasure.
All right. I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, good. Okay. Have a good time. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, that wraps it up today with Andreas. What really stands out to me is the clarity Saam acupuncture brings to working with the inner world of the mind. Not through analysis or storytelling, but through structure, movement, and resonance. Andreas reminds me that emotion and physiology are not two separate things. They're different expressions of the same current moving through the channels. I rather cotton to the idea that meridians don't just carry chi. They carry the shape of our longing, the texture of our fears, the rhythm of satisfaction, whether it's the restlessness of never having enough, the ache of low self-esteem, or the capacity to focus intently into your inner world with creativity. There's often a channel that already knows how to respond to what's needed in any particular given moment. And the beauty of this system, you don't need to be a psychotherapist. You just need to know how to listen to the body, to the meridians, and the subtle stories patients don't always know how to tell, but express through their struggles, physical symptoms, and even well-developed capacities that get leaned on more than is healthy. The cartography of the meridians. It's a bit like a treasure map of resources for navigating the world. Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Qiological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Qiological.